just said a paragraph about homosexuality. This has made a lot of news, but it turns out that he was writing to his then girlfriend. This is, back in the younger years, about how he had repeated fantasies of having sex with men. Now, what do you make of this? It's like, is Barack Obama a gay man? Is he a bisexual man? Like, what?
It must be really, really hell for anybody who is gay not to be able to lead that kind of life, or the life that they prefer to lead. I have a lot of gay friends. They've always led a very open life. I always have believed that your religious and sexual preferences are private. People I have never ever encountered anywhere, whenever at least I grew up, asking me, what is your sexual preference or what is your religion? That has never ever been an issue in any workplace for me. Of course, if you are a Muslim and you need to pray, or the Jewish community, that certain days they can't work, there are holidays that are religiously sacred, they have always been respected. But to me, with this that you saw, that Barack Obama was fantasizing, and there are more letters and postcards that he sent to various people that have been hidden from the rest of the public. Not really hidden, they've always been there. It's just that the press kept quiet about it. Because as it was, Barack Obama was facing what he thought a uphill thing, being black, which actually it worked in his favor. But coming out as gay, that would have been even worse. I'm not saying he is, I'm not saying he isn't, but I am saying that there are letters that he wrote in postcards. He wrote to different and various people who are actually in the public library, but they don't allow you to photocopy them or anything. There, as you can go see, I will leave in the video description Megyn Kelly complete interview with this man, because all of these letters and postcards, or most of them, are in the public library. It's just that the press, they don't do their due diligence because they don't want to find out certain things, and they want only certain things to be known. So all of these letters are out there of Barack Obama fantasies, writing to his girlfriends about the sexual fantasies he had, with homosexual gay fantasies that he had as early as, there's some from 1981 up till 1985, 86, and then he married Michelle Obama in 1992. Oddly, I have looked everywhere, and if there's anybody of you who can show me a picture of Michelle Obama actually pregnant, that would be greatly appreciated, because I have not been able to find any pictures of her pregnant. Okay? Those things about her being trans, I don't think so. I don't think she's trans. She's very male looking. She has a lot of male, but that's nothing. That doesn't mean that she's trans, okay? Because I've seen a lot of rumors about that. But no, can you imagine being Barack Obama, a biracial male growing way back then, when Bill Clinton signed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Because what I'm going to show you right now, it's what you're going to read with me. I'm going to read out for you, or you're going to see in these little videos, is basically what I consider Barack Obama's wish list of what he wanted or would have wanted for himself growing up. Because had these things been in place, probably he wouldn't have needed to marry Michelle Obama. Probably he would have been able to run for office as a gay, openly gay man. And it is a very sad thing for him and for anybody else. And for those of you who are going to come back at me and say, well, he did a lot for women. If you go I wanted to do that. I wanted to show you that as well. But you can I will leave the link for that as well. You will see that he didn't sign any bills assigning fundamental rights to women. It was mostly to families or women and their partners. Some economic things about women or people who identify as women, because we have that gender identity that he very much goes into and signed into a bill, into law, that people who have gender identity. And this is where we come into crisis right now, because even saying woman, I am a woman, it's basically considered a hateful term, and basically denying we're worse off now than we were when the suffragettes couldn't even vote, because now the term I am a woman, or the sentence I am a woman, it's more offensive than not being able to vote. I would prefer to have both. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this in 2023, but I would prefer to say woman, before you had to have woman, men, now you have to include gender identity or other. I should really believe that there should be man, woman, other. But, I don't even think there should be other, because there's only two biological sexes. And even that, apparently, it's a crime to say there's only two genders, because biologically that's true. Physically, there's only two genders. I may put myself a huge thing and call myself a unicorn, but that doesn't really make me one, does it? This is not hate speech of any kind. These are just biological facts. Gender identity crisis, that you prefer you being born a woman, that you prefer you being born a man, that you have certain sexual orientations, great, go for it. But to me, what's really important, and the things that I'm about to read to you, is not that, or that you're going to see, it's not that Barack Obama was championing gender LGBT community only in the United States, but he made it his mission to implement these rights worldwide. And is this why we're seeing what we're seeing right now? There's so much hatred towards women, towards the fact that we can call, has he been driving all this division? We really have to ask these questions, because it's incredible. I mean, he even signed the bill of leaving women, making sure that that there's landmarks, that they believe that LGBT people, to create landmarks for LGBT people who contributed to society or whatever, but he didn't do that for women. There's no bill signed into law to create landmarks for women's contributions to history. None. There's no specific bills towards women. It's always with the family, protecting the family, or the partner, or the family, no matter what their gender identity is, in the family, because he's the one who repealed, basically, who called it unconstitutional to define the Marriage Act as a union between a man and a woman. That's unconstitutional now, thanks to Barack Obama. Nothing wrong with that. But truly, that's basically spitting on the face of church, because church is very specific about that. But let's get into this, and you tell me what you think at the end, because it is actually a very important conversation to have. But his letters are very specific about how he felt about his own sexuality. Since taking office, Barack Obama has made sure and worked tirelessly to give rights to the LGBTQ community, more rights even than women's rights. He hasn't worked as much on women's rights, as promoting or ensuring women's rights, as he has for the LGBTQ community. I wonder why. Could it be because this is something that he himself has felt that he couldn't, or he had wished he'd had these rights when he was growing up? These are his statements. This is part of the National Archives that you can read here. We are a big and vast and diverse, a nation of people with different backgrounds and beliefs, different experiences and stories, but bound by our shared ideal that no matter who you are or what you look like or how you started off, or how and who you love. America is a place where you can write your own destiny. President Barack Obama, June 26, 2015. And since he took office, Barack Obama, as I said, has worked tirelessly towards helping the LGBT, now they call LGBT, they had queer before, but now it's LGBT, it's here, community. We can almost say that these things that I'm about to read to you are Barack Obama's wish list and the foundation for the mess we find ourselves in, that we're even having trouble identifying or defining the word woman or man. Preventing bullying and hate crimes against LGBT Americans. This is one of the bills that he signed in 2009, and it was signed into order. Supporting LGBT health. Okay, in June 2009, President Obama issued a directive on same-sex domestic partner benefits, opening the door for the State Department to extend the full range of legally available benefits and allowances to same-sex domestic partners of members of the Foreign Service. Repealing don't ask, don't tell. Basically, this I remember that Clinton, I know I'm old, guys, so Clinton had signed this order of don't ask, don't tell, so people can be in the army. Barack Obama repealed it in December 2010, allowing gay, lesbian, and bisexual Americans to serve openly in the armed forces without fear of being dismissed from service because of who they are and who they love. Ending the legal defense of the Defense of Marriage Act. To me, this is the biggie. This is the big one. In February 2011, the President and Attorney General announced that the Department of Justice would no longer defend the Defense of Marriages Act provision defining marriage as only between a man and woman, leading to the Supreme Court's landmark decisions holding the act unconstitutional. So thanks to Barack Obama declaring that marriage is between a woman and a man is unconstitutional, going against church teachings. And we find ourselves, this is one of the bedrocks of what is a woman and what is a man, and the hatred, the division that is promoted nowadays. If you even dare call yourself a woman, because calling myself a woman, apparently I am committing a hate crime by saying I am a woman. Protecting LGBT Americans against discrimination. Okay, in July 2014, the President signed an executive order prohibiting federal contractors from discriminating against any employee or applicant for employment because of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. First off, whenever you're hired or you go to at least it has been my experience, nobody has ever asked me what my religion is, ever. So for example, religion and sexual orientation, gender identity, what is that? Nobody asks you at the workplace what gender identity you are. So this is the basis. And gender identity, what do you mean gender identity? That you identify as a man or you identify as a woman? And this is where we started with the whole mess. Taking steps to ensure LGBT equality in housing and crime prevention. Advancing and protecting the rights of LGBT persons, not only in the United States. He made it his mission to make it around the world. Okay? The Obama administration continues to engage systematically with governments around the world to advance the rights of LGBT persons and recognizing LGBT history and contributions. On May 28, 2014, the Department of the Interior announced a new National Park Service themed study to identify places and events associated with the civil rights struggle of LGBT Americans. With that being said, and what you just read and what we've seen, I feel sad for him because I am sure that he's led a very happy life with Michelle Obama. He has two wonderful daughters, but is that the life that he would have loved to have led or lived? Because clearly through these bills that he's posting, and you know, the one that's very important is he's not only focusing on the US, but he wants it to be worldwide. Why? Why? Why isn't he fighting as hard for women's rights worldwide? I will leave the link of the bills that Barack Obama signed into law. They call it women's, but if you read them, 90% of that is towards the family unit. There's one for women of color, protecting young teens from women of color. But it's mostly towards the family unit and the women and their partners instead of their spouses or a marriage. It's always towards the family unit. There are no specific bills assigned like to protect what a woman is. To create landmarks for contribution to women, what women have done to nothing like that. But he was very specific, very adamant, and he's still continuing to work towards ensuring that the LGBT or LGBTQ community has rights, more rights than women, and are fiercely protective. Is this why we have the likes of Jeffrey Marsh? Is this why we see on national television during day hours, where it's family-friendly hours, men doing all these things or whatever, or the teachings being taught at school that it's okay to be transgender from very early age, even to a confused young child who one day wakes up saying, I want to be Buzz Lightyear, and the next day they want to be Superman. The next day, he might want to be Wonder Woman because he likes the powers that Wonder Woman has, and the very next day he might want to be, or she might want to be, the Little Mermaid. Unlike Meghan Markle. But is this why there is so much championing and so much trashing of women's rights? Is this why Barack Obama is doing all of this? I mean, why did he sign all those bills? Why was he so passionate about it? And is he responsible for the mess we find ourselves in right now? Because we women right now, we have this famous swimmer having to go around the United States, having bills signed into law. And I will leave those at the end. To define what a woman is, to tell that men who were born male, cannot participate in women's sports, women who were born women. She made a very interesting point because men have, I think it's 43% or 14, I don't know if I heard correctly, but their throats are wider than ours. And even though you may think, Paula, that's bullshit, that doesn't make any difference. It does in sports. For swimming, for running, you are able to have higher intake of air when you're swimming, when you're running, on any sport. Men have more muscle than women, are stronger than women. With my dad, I used to lift weights because my dad was a bodybuilder. I'll show you pictures of him at the end, so you'll see my dad, okay? And I remember I would do squats, I would do 3 sets of squats. And I remember it would take me about a month. It took me about a little bit over a month to be able to do squats, like 6 or 7 squats with 160 pounds for my legs, okay? And I remember my dad had this Australian bloke, in Jeff, his name is Jeff, and he wanted to start training. And when he tried to do the squats with 160 pounds the first day, of course he couldn't because his legs weren't trained for that. It took Jeff less than a week to do squats with 210 pounds. And it was still, taking me a month to do that with hard training and stuff like that. because of course men are built differently. They have more muscle mass, more fiber, and you know, they have, you know, my hairstylist in London, she is transgender, and even she will tell you that she's not a female. She will tell you, I am transgender. And Rach will tell, you know, because she's tall, gorgeous, you know, no cellulite in sight. And then she says that, of course she knows the difference. She tells you the difference. She says, well, I don't have to worry about cellulite. She's tall, slim. I mean, she's gorgeous, you know. But she's very honest about who she is. But nowadays, we can't even do that. And there are differences. There are marked differences. So, but now, this woman has made it a mission, this swimmer has made it a mission for her to go around the United States to ensure that we women have rights, that we women are recognized for being women, and that we don't have to be worried about being canceled or consider it hate speech just to say, I am proud to be a woman. And all of this, it is my firm belief, is as consequence of what Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are doing behind closed doors or behind our backs, and even right in front of the office, because he was one of the biggest champions for LGBT rights, which is nothing wrong with that. But why does the sexual orientation or sexual preference have to be included in law when it should be a private matter? This is for me like disclosing what kind of sexual positions I like in bed. It's something that should be very personal, and it doesn't affect my private life or my public life or my, you know, nothing other than your doctor and for health concerns and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I am glad that they're not discriminated against. Like, for example, I do believe that if you're gay and it shows that you're gay, that you should not be discriminated at work, or they can say, I'm not going to give you a job. But we women have been facing that for years. I know some workplaces where, this is the great thing about Scandinavia. I will give them that. I will give Norway this. This is the great thing about Scandinavia, that I don't know about you, but whenever you go into a workplace, the first thing they would ask you, are you married? Have you had children? Because if you were a woman, they always would factor in the fact that you would eventually get married, be pregnant, and have children, and therefore you wouldn't be able to work as much, and therefore you'd be a liability in the future, because you would have to take maternity leave, that they would have to pay for it, and you know, and they would think that being pregnant was some sort of impediment. That was, you know, I don't know about you, but I found that at least in my time growing. And in Scandinavia, that's not the case, at least not in Norway. I cannot speak for Denmark or Sweden, but I believe that they have a similar system. But in Norway, they have done this great thing that men and women can choose. They have a year off, a full year off of maternity. It's not even maternity leave, it's parental leave, okay? It's called parental leave. Whether it's the man who wants to, if the man wants to take the whole full year off to take care of the child, the man does. In most cases, it's the men who take most of the time off, or they can divide it. Women sometimes takes 3 months off, 3 months of parental leave, and then they go back to work, and then they leave the rest to men, okay? But that basically help to avoid discriminating women, because now when a man or woman, they go to a job interview, their employers know that this man can very well take a year off of parental leave. So there's no discrimination. And it has nothing to do with gender, with gender. You know, there's only two genders, whether you're male or female. So yes. But what do you guys think? I mean, I'll leave you pictures of my dad so you can see he was a bodybuilder. And I used to train with him. And there are marked differences. But do we owe this whole mess to Barack Obama, or the mess we women found ourselves in? I feel sorry for him in many regards, because he's had to lead a life, given his letters that are out in the open. Actually, they're in back books, but the media is not covering it. I mean, would you have voted for Barack Obama if he had been gay when he ran for president? If you knew he was gay when he ran for president? Hand on heart, say it, because, you know, this is not me ousting Barack Obama, because as you saw, Megyn Kelly's talking about it. And these letters and books have been out there in plain sight for everybody to see. It's just that the press hid the story. This is such a sad thing, and I really miss the press journalistic integrity. You know, when they discover Watergate, you know, or Ronald Reagan with aiding the Contras in Nicaragua, you know, it's or all those other big scandals, or newsworthy stories that politicians were desperately trying to keep quiet. You know, that journalistic integrity no longer exists. We YouTubers are doing most of the research that the press either they don't want to do, because they know that YouTubers like us, we do it. We do more journalistic stuff, research, than they do, because, especially when they have an agenda. But would you have voted for Barack Obama if he had run as a single black gay president? Please tell me. And you have to feel sad for people who feel the need to lead a double life. I have friends who do that here, because in Latin America, there's no hate crimes, at least not where I see it. There's no hate crimes in that sense, but they're ridiculed and taken less seriously, even for jobs. So they keep it quiet, and for church purposes and stuff like that. It is a sad thing that they feel that they have to lead a life like that. But it is my very humble opinion that your sexual orientation and your religion shouldn't be even part of any form that you have to fill out at work, because those are very personal things that you don't go. I don't go with a banner on my forehead saying I'm Catholic, or you would not know if certain people are gay or not. You wouldn't, because some people don't show it. But if you do show, or it shows that you're gay, it shouldn't really matter. In that sense, I do agree that all those rights should be protected, because I love my fantastically beautiful gay friends. So what do you guys think?